I have a friend of long standing who lives in Pittsburgh with his wife and their little boy. The two of them married late in life, he in his late 40s and she in her early 40s. It was the first marriage for each. I went out to Pittsburgh and married them off, as they say. A beautiful wedding. Happy that these two persons had found one another. They were hopeful that they would conceive a child, but time passed and nothing happened, and so they decided that they would adopt. It's still possible that they might yet conceive. They would be delighted if they did, but the time is running out. They have a little boy who now is just a little bit shy of 18 months old. I went out to Pittsburgh again to baptize him, and they have visited me, bringing the little boy with them. I see photos of him and even little videos that they post on Facebook. He's a delightful, beautiful little boy. They have applied for a second child. Just recently I wrote a letter of reference, pretty much the same letter of reference that I had written for them the first time. And we're hoping that all will go well and they will be able to adopt the second child so that little Toby will have a little brother or a little sister. We talked to one another on the phone, the father of the child and I, and he called me just this past week. And of course, part of the conversation has to do with Toby. How's Toby doing? What are his latest exploits? What are his latest accomplishments? Well, he hasn't quite mastered the art of walking unaided, but that seems to be pretty soon. And his conversation is limited right now to mommy and daddy, and maybe one or two very short sentences. But all things take time. And there's something that my friend said to me that struck me, and when he said it to me, I filed it away in my head and say, that's homily material, especially because the coming Sunday, today, was Holy Family Sunday. He said to me that whenever he, the father, his name is Chris, whenever Chris comes home from work, the little boy is visibly excited to see him and actually trembles with joy when his father walks into the room, and he applauds. I said, wow. I said, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. Your little boy applauds you and trembles with joy when you walk into the room. Beautiful. He said, yeah. He said, I'm going to enjoy it now. He probably won't do that when he's 14. I said, yes, enjoy it now. But just dwell on that. In fact, that in itself is a homily. The little boy, not quite 18 months old, trembling in joy when his father walks into the room coming home from work, and he applauds his father. Beautiful. I clipped something out of the newspaper just this past Sunday, and it's from a column called Ask Mr. Dad. It's a syndicated column, and I read it every week. It's usually of of some interest. I'm not going to read the whole thing because it would be too long. It's a question and answer thing. I'm just going to read the question and will not read the answer, although the answer is a pretty good one. Here is the question. Dear Mr. Dad, I am a single mother. My husband and I split before our daughter was born. She's now 4 years old and keeps asking where her father is. I tried to keep in touch with him and encourage him to spend time with his daughter, but he has no interest. I've also been trying to meet other men so she can have a good male role model around, but haven't found a good match yet. The problem is that every time she sees a man, she thinks he is her daddy. And this happens just walking around in the city. She doesn't want to sleep, eat, or behave in a normal way. How should I handle this situation? If that doesn't touch your heart, I don't know what would. Again, there's a homily just there. Just think about it. Somewhere in the United States, there's a 4-year-old girl living with her mother who is divorced. Apparently, the former husband, the father of the child, has no interest in the little girl, but the little girl is interested in him. And she keeps wondering why other children have daddies and she does not. And so in her mind, she imagines that various and sundry men that she might see on the street are her daddy. One more little anecdote, and I'll be done with the anecdotes. Years ago, to be precise, 1974 to 1981, my full-time assignment was hospital chaplain. It was so much a full-time assignment that I did not live in a rectory or in a private house. I literally lived in the hospital. The hospital is now known as the Lehigh Valley Hospital Center. If you go down toward Allentown, you see it on 309 and Cedar Crest Boulevard. Now, at the time that I was there, the Lehigh Valley Hospital Center did not have pediatric units. And so, for having a child as a patient was a very rare, relatively rare occurrence. The only time they would have a child as a patient would be some trauma brought into the emergency room, but not for routine kinds of things. So I seldom saw a child in my visitation of parents, of patients. This hospital still has a burn unit. Burn unit, that's a sad place. People who have incurred burns, severe burns, and the treatment they have to undergo is very severe. I heard much crying out in pain when I would visit the burn unit. To visit the burn unit, I would have to, or anybody who visited, would have to put on a gown and sterile gloves cover my head with a cap, and before all that, had to wash up, and then could go into the patient area. They were all private rooms in the burn unit. And there was, at one time, a little boy who was in the burn unit. There had been some house fire. No one was killed in the fire, but the little boy was severely burned on the lower part of his body, his legs, his back. Not his face, though, fortunately, but his arms to some extent. And there he was. The nurses in the burn unit noticed that he was not getting visitors. And they told me a little bit about his family background. He lived with his mother, but there was no man around. And the boy needed some attention above and beyond what the nurses could give him because they were very busy. So they asked me if I would spend some time with the boy, going to visit him each day. And so I did. With the other patients, my agenda would be spiritual, offering the sacraments, but that was not relevant to this little boy. He was only about 7 years old, as I recall. And he was a cheerful little guy, considering all that he had been through and would still have to go through. And he was lying in the bed, and sometimes they would crank him up a little bit so that he could sort of sit up. And there was a bedside tray or a table, such as are customary in hospitals. And he had things like a coloring book, crayons, and when he got tired of coloring, he had some little trucks and cars, such as little boys have. And I would go in, and I would sit down next to him and just make small talk with him. But how much small talk can you make with a 7-year-old? He was mainly interested in my looking at his coloring. See what I colored? See what I colored? And I would say, oh, that's good. Oh, yeah, that's good. That's wonderful. Very nice, very artistic. And he wanted me to play with his toys and cars. And of course, I would do what anyone would do. Oh, look at that. And I'd take a little play and go, woo, wow, woo. And, oh, look at that. And, things that parents and babysitters do with little kids. Make nice with them. Enjoy their toys with them. And here's what I'm driving at. After my third or fourth visit to him, he looked at me and he said, "Could I call you Daddy?" Those words, that question, was one of the greatest compliments I have ever received in my life, but simultaneously, it was one of the saddest things that was ever said to me or asked of me. "Can I call you Daddy?" I paused, I just laughed a little bit, and thought to myself very quickly here, if I say, "Yeah, sure, call me Daddy," then that's a commitment. And quite frankly, I could not make that commitment. I could not make that commitment because if I made that commitment, then I would be bonded to him in a way that I could not fulfill the obligation. But my heart wanted me to say, "Yes, you can call me Daddy." But my head said, no, don't do that, don't do that. I just laughed and I said to him something like this, "Oh," I said, "you can call me anything you want." And that's how I got out of it. But can I call you Daddy? My dear brothers and sisters, for from those three little anecdotes, two anecdotes and one newspaper clipping, I think it's perfectly clear to us that having a father is so important. It's built into human nature. We cry out for a father. And I want to say that in this day and age in which we live, it is absolutely a crying shame that fathers and fatherhood are so disrespected. There's not a whole lot you and I can do about the world out there. The world will do as the world will do. But we, who are members of the one holy, Catholic, and Apostolic Church, we are not the world. We are God's people. And so to those of you who are married, I beg of you, maintain the bond. Maintain the bond. There is something about the bond of permanence between husband and wife that is so important. We depend on it. I think to myself, I was fortunate, raised by one mother, one father, who stayed together 51 years, and the only reason that they parted after 51 years was because my father died. But there's something I never worried about. I never worried that my father and my mother might separate, let alone divorce. The stability of their marriage was as absolutely certain to me as that the ground on which I walked would not all of a sudden open up and swallow me. I don't worry that when I'm walking along the road that all of a sudden a hole will open up and I'll fall in. No. I don't worry that whether or not there will be air for me to breathe. The air is there. I'll breathe it. Air is always there. Water is there, and mom and dad are there. And the only thing that can separate them is death, and may that be postponed as long as possible. So fortunate is any child who grows up in a home where the union between mom and dad is rock solid. Now, I'm not so Pollyanna as to think that it is not difficult at times to maintain the union. Sure, it can be difficult. We are all creatures of flesh and blood, and we all have our faults and our failings. But perhaps that's what prompted St. Paul in today's first reading to say such basic things to us as this. Let the peace of Christ rejoice in your hearts. As the Lord has forgiven you, so do you also. Bear with one another and forgive one another. Bear with one another and forgive one another. Yeah. Is there anyone in your family, perhaps it's even your husband or your wife, that at times at least you have to take a deep breath and bear up with him or her? I am almost sure that you can relate to that. Admonish one another in all wisdom. Pray together with one another. And whatever you do in word or in work, do all of it in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ. There's something that a father can give that a mother cannot. And women who think that they can be both mother and father adequately to their children are only fooling themselves. Every home needs a mother and a father. Can a child survive with only the mother? Sure, survive, of course. But thrive in every way? I don't know about that. I don't think so. I think about my own father and mother, and lest I stray down memory lane and prolong this, which I don't intend to do, I just want to mention this one thing. I was never afraid of my mother. I was never afraid of her. I loved her, respected her. I could get sentimental and say all sorts of wonderful things about my mother. But then again, you can do the same about yours. But my father, I have to admit that in the early years of my life, I was afraid of him. I don't want you to misunderstand that. I don't mean that I lived in fear of him. No, not at all. But I do mean this. I was afraid that he would be angry at me. And if there was one thing I did not want to endure, it was my father's anger. And you might think, oh, that conjures up a picture in me of a man who goes around beating his kids. Never, not even once, did my father ever strike me or my siblings to the best of my knowledge. My father never hit us. My mother, yeah, but not my father. Never hit us. But there was something about the imposing presence of my father and his voice, and also, when occasion called for it, the banging of the fist on the table. But that'll be enough of that nonsense. That did it. That did it. I did not want to anger the dragon. When I got to be about, I would say, perhaps age 14 or so, I remember my attitude toward my father changing. I don't remember being afraid of him after that. And in my foolishness, I sort of thought, maybe my father is mellowing in his old age. No, it was I who was maturing. Do you see? And so, my memory of my father, and I was 46 years old at the time he died, so I had a good dose of my father. My memory of my father is very, very sweet, loving, beautiful. I venerate my father. But I think it's a wonderful thing if children have a salutary fear of their fathers. You say, oh, I don't think so. Well, I beg to differ. A salutary fear of their fathers is a marvelous thing. Because, even the scriptures tell us, the beginning of wisdom is the fear of the Lord. That's not too popular today. Everyone likes to speak about love and peace and kindness and gentleness. Yeah, I'm in favor of love, kindness, peace, and gentleness. But there's something to be said for majesty. The father of the family represents the majesty of God, the awesomeness of God. The father of the family generates fear to those who need to have fear instilled in them. But to have your father love you, oh, what a marvelous thing that is. To be loved by someone who is awesome and fearful, beautiful. To those of you who are fathers, I say to you, seize the task. Recognize how important that is. And make sure that you are a father in fact and not simply biologically or in theory. And to those young men out here who perhaps someday will get married and father children, God bless you. Choose your wife well. Make sure that she's a solid woman. And once you pledge your troth to her in holy matrimony, stay with her. for the rest of your lives until death do you part, and be, in your own family, an image and an icon of God.